back to the Cozy Cast. I'm so glad you could join us today.
And we have a really interesting topic lined up for you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Speak Unstoppable. If you're new here, this is the place where we practice real English through honest, gentle conversations about everyday life. I'm Maria.
And I'm Joan. We're really happy you're here with us today.
On this channel, we don't chase perfection. We talk naturally. We reflect. We learn from real experiences, and we grow our confidence step by step.
Exactly. So if you enjoy learning English in a calm and realistic way, make sure you subscribe, like this episode, and share your thoughts in the comments. We always love hearing from you.
Yes, tell us about your experiences too. It makes this space feel like a real conversation. Have you ever had that feeling when you step into a completely new place and everything suddenly seems huge, confusing, and a little overwhelming? That was me on my very first day at university.
Oh, I remember you telling me that. You looked like you weren't even sure which way to go, right?
Exactly. I mean, I had imagined this perfect first day, all confident, walking into the classroom like I belonged there, and then reality hit. The moment I entered, my heart started racing. I could feel my palms getting sweaty, my stomach twisting. I even, paused for a good 5 minutes just outside the lecture hall, trying to convince myself, okay, Maria, you got this.
Yeah, I know that moment. But wasn't there also a part where you realized everyone else seemed just as lost?
Oh, yes, that's the thing. I kept staring at people, trying to figure out if they were already friends or knew the professors, or if they had done this before. And I thought, wow, I'm probably the only one who feels like a complete beginner here.
I think that's what makes the first day so memorable. You feel like the outsider, but at the same time, everyone's a little outsider.
True. And you know what was funniest? I got completely lost looking for my classroom. I walked around the hallways like a confused tourist, asking for directions 3 times, and still ended up at the wrong building.
Classic first day. So, how did you finally find it?
Okay, this is embarrassing. I finally spotted a senior student who seemed calm and confident. I nervously approached her and said, "Excuse me, can you tell me where room 204 is?" And she smiled and guided me there like it was the easiest thing in the world. And I thought, wow, people really do help if you just ask.
That's such an important lesson for anyone starting something new, right? Sometimes we overthink everything and assume we're the only ones who feel lost. But really, everyone has that first day confusion.
Exactly. And then, as I walked into the lecture hall, I realized the classroom wasn't as intimidating as I had imagined. Sure, it was full of strangers, but they were just people. People who probably felt the same nervousness as me when they first joined.
And that's where the learning starts. Not just the lectures, but noticing how to navigate new situations, how to interact, how to find your own pace.
Yes, and I remember my first interaction with a classmate. I tried to introduce myself, and my words got tangled up. I said, "Hi, I'm Maria. I just started," and then laughed awkwardly. But the other person smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'm new too." And in that moment, I felt okay. I didn't have to be perfect. Just talking was enough.
That's so relatable. It's amazing how a simple conversation can change your perspective entirely.
Absolutely. And from that small exchange, I learned a few things that really helped me on the first day. First, it's okay to pause and breathe. I kept reminding myself, take it slow, Maria, no rush. Second, Asking for help doesn't make you weak. It actually makes navigating the new environment easier. And third, laughing at your own awkward moments actually reduces stress.
True. I remember seeing you laughing while holding your books upside down, wondering why nothing seems to fit in your backpack.
Oh my gosh, yes, that was me, fumbling with my bag, trying to organize my notebooks and pens. And you know what? A few people noticed and even helped me out, just casually. And in that moment, I realized that being nervous or clumsy isn't a failure. It's part of learning, part of adapting.
And I think that's the part a lot of learners miss when they're trying to speak a new language or adapt to a new environment. They focus so much on being perfect that they forget how much they can actually learn from mistakes.
Exactly. And speaking of learning, my first class itself was an adventure. I remember trying to take notes while listening to the professor, who spoke fast and had all this jargon I wasn't familiar with. My mind kept racing. Am I understanding this? Did I miss something? And then I realized it's okay not to catch everything on the first day. Just being there, listening, and trying is progress.
That's a great mindset. Focus on participation and exposure, not perfection.
Yes! And little by little, I started noticing familiar faces, nodding to people, exchanging smiles, small hellos in the hallway. And those tiny moments gave me more confidence than I expected. I realized that every small interaction counts. Every attempt at communication helps build comfort.
And that's why the first day, while nerve-wracking, is also a foundation for everything that comes next. It sets the tone, shows you the environment, introduces you to the rhythm, and teaches you how to cope with initial anxiety.
Absolutely. And looking back now, I can honestly say that those initial moments of confusion, hesitation, and awkwardness were actually the most important lessons of all. They taught me patience with myself, the value of asking for guidance, and the confidence to start conversations even when I wasn't perfect.
And that's a lesson anyone can take into new situations. Language learning, new jobs, or even meeting people in a new city. First impressions, first days, first attempts. They're all stepping stones.
And, I know that might sound obvious now, but living it was totally different. Feeling lost, fumbling, making mistakes, it's a lot more real when it's happening to you. And realizing it's okay, that was liberating.
And that feeling of liberation is key. Once you let go of the need to be perfect, you allow yourself to actually experience and enjoy the process.
Exactly. And that's why I try to remember my first day whenever I feel nervous about something new. It's a reminder that every beginning is messy. Every start feels overwhelming, but every small step counts.
Perfect. And with that mindset, the rest of your journey at university, or in any new place, becomes much more manageable.
Totally. And I also discovered that talking to others, sharing experiences, and even laughing at small mishaps makes the day feel lighter and more manageable. It's like you're not alone in your nervousness, you're sharing it with everyone around you. Joun, after that first lecture, I thought the day couldn't get more intense. But it did. Walking to the cafeteria, I suddenly realized I had no idea where anything was. Every hallway looked the same, every sign was confusing, and my stomach was reminding me that I hadn't had breakfast properly.
Oh, yes. And wasn't there that moment when you tried to grab a tray but ended up dropping a spoon?
Yes, I literally froze, staring at the spoon rolling on the floor, thinking, oh no, everyone's watching me fail again. But then a kind person picked it up and handed it back to me with a simple smile. That little gesture made me feel surprisingly calm.
It's amazing how small acts of kindness can ease our nerves. And that's something people often forget when they feel nervous. They're not alone, and others are more understanding than we imagine.
Exactly. And then I went to find a table. I hesitated at first, not wanting to intrude on anyone, but I remembered what you said. Just start with a small hello, even if it's awkward. So I walked up to a group and said, "Hi, is this seat taken?"
That's brave, Maria. How did they respond?
They smiled and said, "No, of course not." And just like that, I had a place to sit. I realized in that moment that people generally want to help or include you. They're not waiting to judge every small mistake.
That's such an important mindset. Instead of fearing judgment, we can focus on connection.
Yes. And as I started eating, I overheard a conversation about a project we had to do in one of our classes. I wanted to join in, but I hesitated. My brain kept saying, "What if I say something wrong? What if they don't understand me?"
Hey, slow down. Let's simplify that. You were nervous, yes, but you just had to start with one small sentence.
You're right. So I took a deep breath and said, "Hi, I'm Maria. I'm also in that class. Have you started thinking about the project?" And, they actually responded positively. They shared their ideas, and I realized I had something to contribute, even if my words weren't perfect.
That's so relatable. Sometimes learners overthink their language skills and forget that communication is more about trying than being flawless.
Absolutely. And then, after lunch, I had my first lab session. Oh, Joan, that was intimidating. I had never worked with lab equipment like that before, and I could feel the pressure building up. I kept thinking, what if I break something? What if I mess up in front of everyone?
And yet, you survived.
Yes, I survived, but not without fumbling a bit. I accidentally dropped a beaker and jumped back, like I'd just witnessed a small explosion. But the lab assistant calmly guided me. "It's okay, just take your time." And again, that reassurance made all the difference.
That's another lesson for learners. Perfection isn't required. Mistakes are part of learning, and guidance is usually there if we're open to accepting it.
Exactly. And after the lab, I finally had a moment to just walk around campus and notice the surroundings. I realized that all the signs, paths, and even people gradually became familiar. It was like my brain slowly started understanding this new environment, and I felt more at home than before.
That's the key. Comfort doesn't come immediately. It comes with exposure, small interactions, and giving yourself the grace to feel awkward sometimes.
And one of the funniest parts of the day was when I accidentally joined a group heading to the wrong lecture. I was about to panic, but instead, I just followed along. And surprisingly, I ended up making a friend because we both realized we were lost.
That's such a relatable story. Sometimes confusion leads to unexpected connections.
Yes, and from that, I learned another important thing. Accepting uncertainty can actually lead to new experiences. Instead of panicking every time I didn't know something, I started seeing it as an opportunity to meet people, learn, and grow.
That's such an empowering perspective, especially for anyone starting something new, learning a language, joining a university, or even exploring a new city.
Absolutely. And then, at the end of the day, I had my first club meeting. I wasn't sure if I wanted to join, but I remembered that day is about trying new things, even if they feel uncomfortable. So I went in. And surprisingly, I enjoyed it. I spoke to new people, shared my ideas, and realized that even small contributions are valuable.
That's exactly it. The first step is always the hardest, but each small interaction builds confidence and creates opportunities.
Yes, and looking back now, that first day was full of moments where I felt awkward, nervous, and unsure, but each of those moments taught me something valuable: patience with myself, courage to speak, willingness to ask for help, and the ability to laugh at mistakes.
And those lessons don't just apply to university. They apply to speaking English, starting a new job, or any situation that feels unfamiliar.
Exactly. And, what really stayed with me was that people are generally kind, mistakes are okay, and trying, even if imperfect, is always better than avoiding.
Perfect takeaway. That mindset shift is the foundation for confidence, both academically and socially.
And I know this might sound a bit philosophical, but sometimes the first day teaches you more about yourself than any lecture ever could. You discover how resilient, adaptable, and brave you can be, even in small, everyday moments.
Absolutely. And that realization can change how we approach new challenges in the future: language learning, social interactions, or even personal growth.
Yes, and that's why I try to remember my first day whenever I feel hesitant or nervous about something new. It reminds me, every beginning is messy, every first attempt is imperfect, and yet every step counts. So, after that intense first day, I realized something important, Joan. You know how I was struggling with my fear of judgment, right? The whole day felt like a big test. But when I look back now, I realize the real challenge wasn't the fear of people watching me, it was the fear of my own thoughts.
Yeah, sometimes our biggest obstacle is the voice in our head, telling us we can't do it, we're not good enough, or we'll mess it up.
Exactly. And by the end of the day, I had started changing my inner dialogue. Instead of thinking, I'm going to mess this up, I tried to think, I'm learning, I'm doing my best. Even if it's not perfect, it's okay.
That's such a powerful shift. When you change the way you talk to yourself, you start seeing the world differently.
Yes! And as I walked back to my dorm, I felt something I hadn't expected: pride. It wasn't because I had aced every situation, but because I had tried. Every time I spoke up, every time I asked for directions, or even when I sat down at that table alone, it was all part of growing, right?
Absolutely. Progress isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, trying, and learning from each step you take.
That's the secret, isn't it? Most of us are waiting for everything to be perfect before we start. But the truth is, the messier the start, the more we learn.
I totally agree. The first time I tried to speak English at an event, I was so nervous that I could barely form a sentence. But I pushed through, and what I learned was that people don't expect you to be perfect. They expect you to try.
And that's exactly what I realized on my first day at university. People are so much more understanding than we think. And mistakes? They're just part of the process. It's like when I said something wrong in the cafeteria earlier. Instead of embarrassing me, it actually led to a conversation.
That's it. Mistakes often open doors to real connections. If you're afraid of messing up, you'll miss the chance to meet others, learn, and grow.
And, it's funny how every awkward moment, every misstep, becomes a funny story later. I remember that time I walked into the wrong lecture hall. I mean, who does that, right? But then I ended up making a new friend, and we laughed about it for days.
See, it all comes down to this. It's okay to be imperfect. In fact, imperfections often make us more human and relatable.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of that, I've been thinking about how that applies to speaking English, too. You know, when we're learning a language, we often get so caught up in making sure we say everything perfectly that we forget the goal isn't perfection. The goal is communication.
Yes, I always remind myself, if I can get my message across, even if it's not perfectly phrased, that's a win.
I love that. It's the same with English. Even when I make mistakes, I remind myself that it's part of the process and I'm still moving forward. Every time I speak, I'm one step closer to fluency.
That's the mindset. The more you practice, the more natural it feels. And with practice comes confidence. It's all connected.
Absolutely. And one thing I learned that day at university is that small, consistent steps matter more than big, perfect steps. I didn't need to speak perfectly or have all the answers. What mattered was that I was showing up and trying.
And that's where the magic happens. Consistency. Not in a perfect way, but in an honest, genuine way.
You're right, June. And, here's something I realized about making mistakes, too. When you make them, you learn how to handle them better the next time. And I don't think I could have learned that if I was too focused on doing everything flawlessly.
Yeah, it's like learning how to ride a bike. At first, you're wobbly and you might fall off, but the more you try, the more you find your balance.
Exactly. And when you take the pressure off yourself, that's when the real progress starts happening. I didn't have to prove anything to anyone on my first day. I just had to show up and learn.
And that mindset? That's the key to breaking through barriers in anything you do, whether it's learning English, starting a new job, or even just adjusting to a new environment.
It's true. And speaking of starting new things, June, do you remember your first day of university? I bet you had your own version of feeling lost, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think everyone does. But I learned that, just like you, every step, no matter how awkward, is part of the journey. And I wouldn't change a thing.
Same here. I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's all about accepting that first day, that first try, and knowing that it's okay to not have everything figured out.
That's right. And once you accept that, you can truly enjoy the process and the progress.
Exactly. And if there's one thing I'd want anyone who's listening today to take away from this, it's that you don't have to be perfect to succeed. You just have to try, learn, and keep going.
And with that, I hope everyone listening today feels encouraged to take that next step, whether it's speaking in English, trying something new, or simply letting go of the pressure to be perfect.
Well said, June. And I know that as we all continue learning, we'll keep growing, making mistakes, and laughing along the way. So, here we are, the end of this episode. It's funny how every time we talk about our first days or experiences, it feels like we're reminding ourselves how far we've come.
Yeah, it's funny how those firsts stick with you, right? They don't always feel amazing in the moment, but when you look back, they're often the moments that shaped you the most.
Absolutely. I mean, when I think about my first day at university, I realize it wasn't just about surviving the day, it was about changing my mindset. That shift from perfectionism to accepting mistakes, learning from them, and knowing that it's okay to be imperfect, that's what made all the difference.
I think that's something a lot of learners can relate to. We're always striving for perfection, but we forget that the most valuable lessons often come from the mess-ups and the awkward moments.
Exactly. And if we talk about language learning, it's the same. The more you put yourself out there, the more comfortable you get with the process. At first, every mistake might feel like a setback, but with time, you realize that each mistake brings you one step closer to fluency.
And every time you push past that fear, you gain confidence. Confidence to speak up, to make mistakes, and to just be okay with where you are in your learning journey.
That's such a great point. I mean, when I first started speaking English in public, I would freeze at the thought of messing up. But over time, I learned to embrace the mistakes and even laugh at them. It's kind of like, hey, I made a mistake, but I'm still moving forward.
Exactly. I think once you stop fearing those mistakes, they lose their power over you. They're just part of the process. It's like, okay, I messed up. Big deal. I'll do better next time.
Right. And one of the best things about learning in a relaxed, low-pressure environment is that you get to build those small wins. You start realizing that language isn't just about the grammar or vocabulary, it's about communication.
And when you communicate, whether it's perfectly or not, you're still connecting with others. And that's really what matters.
Yes, and that's why I love the idea of practicing English in real-life situations. Like I mentioned earlier, when I was at university, I tried to use English in every situation I could, whether it was ordering food, asking for directions, or just chatting with someone new. Every interaction was an opportunity to practice, and that's how I got better.
That's so important. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment to speak English. It's about finding opportunities in your day-to-day life to practice. The more you practice, the easier it gets.
And I think that's what a lot of learners struggle with. They're waiting for the perfect situation, but the perfect situation never comes. The key is to just start wherever you are.
Exactly. Start with small steps. Even saying a simple hello or introducing yourself in English can feel like a huge win. It's all about building that confidence, one word at a time.
Absolutely. And I remember when I first felt the shift, it was when I started viewing English as a tool to connect rather than a test I had to pass. Once I made that mental shift, everything changed.
That's such a great point. It's not about passing an exam. It's about connecting with people, sharing your thoughts, and enjoying the process.
Yeah, and you know what? The more you speak, the more you realize that most people aren't paying as much attention to your mistakes as you think. They're just happy that you're communicating.
Exactly. The more you speak, the more you'll learn. And the more you make those mistakes, the faster you'll learn from them.
That's the magic. It's about learning through doing. And if there's one thing I want everyone listening to take away from this episode, it's that your first day, your first attempt, it doesn't have to be perfect. What matters is that you're trying, learning, and growing.
And it's so worth it. Every time you speak, every time you try, you're getting better. And remember, progress isn't always a straight line. It's full of ups and downs. But as long as you keep going, you're on the right path.
And speaking of progress, I want to challenge everyone listening today. Try speaking one sentence in English today. It doesn't matter if it's simple or imperfect. Just speak it. And share your experience in the comments. We'd love to hear how it goes.
Yes, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. They're part of the learning process. Every mistake is a step forward.
Exactly. And before we wrap up, just a quick reminder, you don't need to be perfect to succeed. You just need to show up, keep trying, and trust the process.
And as always, we're here for you, cheering you on every step of the way. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends who might need a little encouragement today.
And thank you for joining us on this journey. We're so excited to continue learning and growing with you. Keep practicing, stay positive, and we'll see you in the next episode.